I like to know how things work. I guess that's the engineering background in me. I want to know how things work. I want to know why, if you do this and this and this, that's why it tastes like that.
Welcome to the Lush Life podcast. I'm your drinking companion, Susan Schwartz, and I bring you the how-to guide for living life one cocktail at a time. Thanks to my mother's love of martinis, the first words I spoke were shaken, not stirred, and I've been obsessed by cocktails ever since. Together, we'll learn from bartenders, brand ambassadors, distillers, and others why certain drinks are popular in certain cultures, how to make the perfect old-fashioned, when to shake and when to stir, and so much more. Hear that sound? It's time to cozy up to the bar and let the fun begin. Our guest today didn't realize he was a lover of rum until he was sipping it at his first RumFest. His wife's comment, "Wouldn't it be fun to go to the RumFest in London for the weekend?" changed everything for him. Now, Peter Holland has given his life over to this molasses-based spirit and has never looked back. He is the man behind thefloatingrumshack.com and now the brand ambassador for Old Fashioned Week here in London. His love for rum just happened to coincide with his other love.
So I was born down in Kent, a little place called Ashford. Moved there very quickly to a tiny little village out in the countryside called Hollingbourne, which is famous for nothing other than having the Channel Tunnel rail line driven straight through the middle of it. But
does it still exist?
Oh, the town does, yes. It's nicely bisected. Or the village does. It's a tiny little place. We went there a little while ago. Moved at the age of 7 to High Wycombe, which is just outside, sort of just west of London. Which was fortuitous because that gives me access to London in an easy way, which made things on the Floating Rum Track, made things a lot easier. But,
so nowhere near the Caribbean?
Nowhere near the Caribbean. No, that's not quite true. I suppose I moved to Bournemouth about 3 years ago, and that's, that's by the sea.
Right, exactly.
We got this wet link between us, we'll get there eventually. You start paddling, don't you? It's pretty sunny down there. It's kind of Caribbean-like.
So, I'm going to assume you weren't drinking rum yet while you were living there.
No, Bournemouth, no, we were already into it. My rum journey starts in the late 90s. So I'd actually made mid-90s, I don't know. Things get a little hazy over the years. I met the lady who subsequently became my wife in the early 90s. She's English, her mum's from Barbados, her dad's from St Vincent. And so sort of going round to Pauline's mum and dad's at the weekend, out comes a bottle of rum. On Pete, boy, do you want to drink some rum kind of thing? And that kind of got us into it. But at that point, living where we did, there was only Mount Gay Eclipse or Cockspur, Bacardi, of course, Lambs, Captain Morgan, not exactly a massive selection. I'm going to admit, we're going to talk about spice rum at some point. I'm going to have to get it out there. I've drunk a lot of Captain Morgan Spice in my youth. It happened,
So how old were you about this time when you met your soon-to-be wife?
Well, I was, early 20s, 21, 20.
But you hadn't...
So this was so I'm 45, I'll throw that one out there. I've been out for a little bit, my youthful looks, obviously. So I'd not really considered rum up until meeting Pauline. And saying it was really kind of getting into it by Pauline's mum and dad's and social, not very expansive, but 2008, rum takes a big turn because Ian Burrell's RumFest. That was the second year that the show had run. Unfortunately, I missed the first one in 2007. I regret that. But we went along a series of happy coincidences. My wife worked in business travel. There was a hotel opening. She got a complimentary 2 nights in London for £10 a night at this new hotel. She's looking through Time Out. Oh, there's a RumFest on. Should we go? Yeah, let's go down.
Okay, you're going way too fast now. All right, we need to back up a little. Okay, we're not there yet. We are so not there yet. So,
that's
before meeting your to-be wife, okay, what were you doing? There must have been something other than rum in your life. So, what were your studies?
So I studied engineering. I left school not sure exactly what I wanted to do, if I'm completely honest. Good at the sort of technical things. physics, maths, that kind of thing. The careers advice says, "Why don't you do this?" And you go, "Okay, I'll do it." You know, and you sort of do a few things until you find your path. Mm-hmm. But that was.
So what kind of engineering were you doing?
Mechanical engineering, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Design engineering, so it's computer-aided design and manufacture was the first part, and then, you know, so it's mechanical side of things, and that led into like the first job, which was working at tool makers. So for plastic injection, making plastic injection mold tools.
Okay.
So
you're making stuff.
Very, very diverse. Uh-huh. Definitely definitely nothing to do with the drinks.
So you were chugging along with that,
doing my thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Met your girlfriend, soon-to-be girlfriend.
Yeah.
That would be then your wife.
And
you go over to her house for the first time, and the father plops a bottle of rum.
Mount Gay out.
Yeah, and it's Mount Gay. You remember?
Mount Gay Eclipse. Yeah, that was.
Were you a rum drinker before that?
God, no. Cider, lager, at best.
A proper Brit.
Honestly, yeah, a proper Brit, and my waistline has never recovered, if I'm honest. I would definitely not a technical. Yeah, there was nothing classy about my drinking back then. It was all very basic, and I wouldn't say I was particularly good at it. A few pints in,
I know this is a while ago, but do you remember taking the first sip or going, "Oh, I'll try this rum"?
Probably the first sip was probably mixed, probably with cola, because I can't imagine what else it would have been back then. Drinking rum neat didn't come along for a little bit later. In fact, again, I've got to blame, is that the right word? I've got to suggest that was Pauline's fault to a certain extent. Thank Pauline for that, yeah, because I mean, she was sort of drinking brandy neat, yeah, and I was thinking, well, yeah, how come she's drinking spirits neat? I never got into it, I'd never got into it at that point. But it was RumFest that changed that, because the rums I was drinking back at the beginning at home, we were just drinking them mixed. Mm-hmm. Lousy homemade cocktails and drowned in mixer. But
you liked it enough that when she said, "Let's go to a RumFest," it didn't seem too. There's
a few strands that are going to kind of come together a little bit on this. We'd been on holidays in the Caribbean and places, because there are, I suppose, there are a few threads that sort of come together. So when we've been sitting, for example, in Antigua, we're sitting in English Harbour, and we're looking at these huge English Harbour, Nelson's Dockyard, I beg your pardon, that was the rum we were drinking. Sitting there looking at these huge boats and thinking, God, when we're rich, when we make our first million, we're going to get a boat just like that, and we're going to call it the Floating Rum Shack or something stupid like that. And that's actually genuinely where the name for the website came from. But all these things have been going along, and eventually, life was hard. It was a little emotional at times, a little bit stressful, and we just wanted to do something completely different. We said, right, that's it. We're drawing a line under it. No more. No more emotional energy to be expended. We'll want a hobby. I want something. Let's create a website. Let's just do something. Like let's write about why is it that. Sorry, Bacardi, but why is it that every damn bar and restaurant or thing we go into, there's always Bacardi? Why is it always there? And that was almost like our mission statement originally. It was like let's do something about this. Didn't get around to do anything with it. We'd registered the website August 2008. And it wasn't until February 2009, we actually started blogging. So that sort of sums me up in many respects.
So you had been going to the Caribbean, you had been drinking rum.
We had been traveling around.
The opportunity to go to this
But it had
fest.
never kind of, like the Caribbean is the connection with Pauline and the family. And I mean, my idea of a holiday is a warm place, a beach, somewhere to chill. The day job was quite stressful. And, the ability to unwind, or the need to unwind actually was really quite important. So rum had been there. We'd been to Barbados a few times. That's where I went on my honeymoon in 2000. Yeah, it was a thing, But there was no real connection. It wasn't really until all these sort of things come together. So we've got a West Indian background, wife, family kind of thing. We've got a spirit I quite enjoy drinking. Especially mixed. I love a rum coke. I still do, but made properly. I'll just hesitate to say. We've got this kind of background, the history with it, and then then it's Ian's show that just ticked the box. We knew about rum from Barbados and from the places we've been to, but I didn't realise quite how diverse rum was, and the fact that it was literally rum from all around the world at the show. And that first day was something of a penny drop moment. And to be fair, it also feels kind of fortuitous in many respects, because the people that we were meeting at the show, I mean, there's a few people I can honestly say have had a massive impact on our lives. One's Jim Wrigley from at the time, who, I mean, he's a legend in the bar world these days. At the time, he was working for Santa Teresa, and he invited us to a launch for an event, and that came off the first day. I must have been a little, I don't know, it's that combination of being just drunk enough to be loquacious, but also persuasive. Because I'm going around saying, we're starting a blog, and we want to talk about rum and things. And he was like, we should come along to the launch. I hadn't got a blog at that point, but the rum
you
festival,
had a name.
I had the name.
Right.
It was definitely registered. Yeah, so it was definitely there. It was like a holding page, if nothing else. That was October, the Rum Festival. We went to this launch in November. Come away with a goodie bag with a bottle of rum in it. Selecto had been launched at the time, and happened to win the throw your business card in the hat kind of thing. Won top prize on that, which was a bottle of Bicentennial, which was pretty awesome, And it's sort of so straight away you think, ooh, it feels like there's a world to be kind of explored here. I mean, I didn't know Venezuela were making rum or anything, at the time. But it was also cool that there was a scene to tap into. Living just outside London, I really didn't even know. I'm a little naive. I am naive. There's no two ways about it. But there was that, and then just into the new year, we started going to rum clubs at Trail Happiness. I've got a lot of love for Trail Happiness. Without the rum clubs that were held there, and we've been,
But you're still coming back and forth from Bournemouth.
No, from High Wycombe. I was living in High Wycombe. So Bournemouth was only a few years ago we moved down. We're popping into London, going for rum clubs. Rob Burr, I've become connected with this gentleman on Facebook, and he was launching the very first Miami Rum Festival. So that was in 2009. We thought, let's go there. Pauline again, working in travel. Yeah, Pauline, this is a crazy question, but just how cheaply do you think you can get us to Miami and back for a long weekend, as it were? And so we flew out on the Thursday, came back on the Tuesday. Had an absolute blast. The first rum festival in Miami was based down on South
And then
Beach.
I guess you knew some people there. So
that's it. Yeah. So some of the people we saw in London at the show, we even knew there, then we were meeting in Miami. And of course then, so a brand sees you there and they see you on an entirely different country. They sort of kind of think, well, maybe these guys are serious, And so we've been lucky. We've been given a lot of access. And I say Pauline and I have done this thing together. And that's probably also the secret of our success, because if I was doing it on my own without a supportive partner, oh my goodness, I can't see how it could have lasted. But so we're doing this thing together. We've got nothing to hold us back. We're traveling around, seeing things, going to different parts of the world.
So how about the floatingrumshack.com?
So the floatingrumshack.com, it launched. I was going to this very first rum club at Trailer. It was meant to have been in January, the rum club. The snow had come down and they'd had to put it off, so they put it on to February. Jenny Gardner, again, she was working at Vanquish Runs. Wonderful lady. St Nicholas Abbey, I remember it all very well. St Nicholas Abbey rum. And she actually, it's hilarious because not many people do this at the beginning of rum clubs. We're all kind of sitting around, it's almost like an AA meeting. And she's getting people to introduce themselves. What's your thing? And so I goes like, well, I'm a blogger. And I could say that quite honestly at that point, because the night before, I thought, right, I've got to build something. I literally threw together the free template, and I threw some things, and I whipped up 2 quick articles to put on there. I wasn't a liar. I definitely blogged before I got to this thing to carry on this masquerade that I was a blogger. Of the people we met there, I'm still in contact with a lot of them.
You think, I can say I'm a blogger now, but this is 2018. Mm-hmm. 2009, there weren't very many bloggers, and certainly not in the alcohol space.
Exactly. There's I have to say, most of the people that I sort of followed online, there's a big website called the Ministry of Rum, and whilst it is the source of information, which I looked at, mostly it was about forums and things like that, and I've never really been a forum person. I'm terrible in many respects. Mm-hmm. I don't care. I prefer to find my own answers, and especially when it comes to tasting. But there was people on there, was like Mike Streeter running rumconnection.com and Matt Robold running Rumdude, but there was a gentleman, Tattoo Carlos, who was running Refined Vices as well. And these were sort of 3 websites that I could kind of look up to. But there wasn't really anyone in the UK doing anything. There was a dark rum blog. I don't know where he was based, sort of further up, And so I suppose in terms of the UK, I was kind of lucky. I was the first person to really kind of take it seriously. Mm-hmm. And it was that kickstart, that very first rum club. I'd get home, I'll write it up, and that became the style for the early days. Anyone trying to find that on the website is going to struggle to find it. I've made some very bad web decisions over the years, and
I wanted to look at the first one and I couldn't find it.
I can point you in a direction. It's terrible, honestly. I am the worst. I am the worst. I really am. If only I'd had the money to get somebody to do the website for me professionally, it had been a whole different story. But I just make that stuff up as I go along. So it was the style writing up rum clubs. So you get to meet brand ambassadors, you get to meet the people in the industry. Trailer's a fantastic bar. We'll be checking it out very soon. It's a wonderful bar. People come to it. It's got a reputation in the industry. It's for education, for rum clubs, that kind of thing. And so over the years, you get to meet pretty much, because everyone's coming to a single point, so lots of different brands come in. So you meet people over the years. Going to cocktail competitions, you get in, can I come along and can I view? Yeah, come along and view. Ian was very good at this at the beginning in Barrow. He was doing, I remember, he was doing a thing with Bacardi, Dominoes and Daiquiris thing, and he did a series of events, and I can't remember what it was, might have been 2010, 2011, I don't know. My mind is not as sharp as it used to be for those sort of things, but Alexino, who become like one of the greatest bartenders of the world when he's based at Artesian, I remember watching him in a cocktail competition at the Dominoes and Daiquiris event, before he became big, in all greatest respect to him, it was before he became big. And I remember Ian saying, like, this guy's going to be big one day, he's winning lots of comps. And so I've sort of grown in the industry watching people develop, and becoming good. And I'm not going to, it sounds terribly boastful to say this, but I like to think I'm a good judge of character when I spot qualities within people. And you can always tell in the industry, the drinks industry, you stand out. Some people stand out and you're like, keep an eye on that one because fairly soon they're going to be running their own chain of bars or whatever like that. And they might have just been a bartender at the time. And you spot the good people. And I guess between Pauline and I going to these events, Pauline has a very kind of personable, we'll be driving, we're in the car because we took it in turns to drive to these events, it's very expensive going by train all the time. It's also quite inconvenient, but we'll take it in turns. So I'll be driving back and Pauline again, oh, did you know so-and-so, like, he's got a new girlfriend or so-and-so's having a baby or something like that. And we get all these little details, and it's not necessarily about trying to get freebies or anything like that. We just get to know people. The bartending world is wonderful. There's some really cool people in it. And I'm a little disconnected in some respects now. I don't know about the latest generation of people because I'm not in London as much as I was, regrettably. But, we've made some firm friends. And we just kept blogging. And so, as you referred to, the fact that no one was really blogging at that time, it wasn't really a thing. And so people were grateful. That's not quite the right word. I mean, they were happy to see that I was writing up rum clubs because it was a way of recording it. And they have been quite useful. There's been conversations where we've gone back and there's a question about rum and sugar that, that it's a topic that goes on and on and on. But where I was able to go back and find that like March 2011. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about that in the rum club. So it's not like it's new now. Right. We were talking about it back then. It's just like, the relevance or importance at the time didn't seem quite as critical as maybe it's become subsequently because it was the thin end of the wedge for all kinds of other revelations, perhaps.
How long do you think it took you before you really felt like you knew what you were talking about? You had really become an authority. So
I'm not the most confident of people, and so for a long time it was just a hobby. I remember Stephanie Holt, who was working for Eldorado at the time. She was trying to get me to go down and do a rum club at a location just sort of Kent direction, and she's saying, "You're more than ready for this. Just get on and do it." And at the time I was like, I'm not ready. This is terrifying. And the people at the bar were asking me to go along and do it, but I'm not ready. I was just enjoying learning. Mm-hmm. I like to know how things work. I guess that's the engineering background in me. I want to know how things work. I want to know why, if you do this and this and this, that's why it tastes like that. It's an analytical process to me, which is why I have a healthy disregard for the more creative levels of marketing that are a bit fanciful. I don't care whether it's aged above the clouds, particularly. Mm-hmm. For me, aged above the clouds equals colder climate. Right. Equals lower evaporation rates. Makes more commercial sense. So you don't lose so much stock.
No rhetoric for you.
It's like, there's a reason for it. They're doing it for a reason. They're not doing it for fanciful reasons. There's a thing. But you can dress it up in a story.
So, back to you. So did you do that rum club?
That one I didn't do, no. And I
did you regret it after you did it?
Sort of. You know what? Yeah, I wish I'd got going a bit sooner. Uh-huh. But I mean, I don't believe in karma particularly, but everything happens in its time. Mm-hmm. And also balanced against the fact that I'm still working full time. We're doing as much in the world of rum as we can do, but we've kind of hit a bit of a glass ceiling in terms of literally every day of holiday allocation is given over to some rum related thing or other. I'm begging the boss at work, can I come in an hour early so I can get away an hour early so I can get into London? And it got to the point we were travelling into London 2-3 times a week. It's tiring, it's long, but you just literally, there's nothing more you can do. But I was enjoying learning, I was enjoying writing things up, and I have to say it, I'll have to admit it at some point, but when you have a blog, when you have social media channels, people send you stuff. It's amazing, it's like, wow, we spent a lot of money developing our rum collection, we were buying a lot, and then the balance sort of shifted, and people were sending us a lot as well, and you're like, it's like fantastic. Actually, there's one, again, this sounds like one of the most naive things, but Tattoo met of Refined Vices. He was at RumFest. I think the second one we went to, I think it was the 2010. And I said to him, so how do you get all these bottles for review? And he goes I just asked them. Oh wow, that's complicated, isn't it? But now I think things have changed because people sort of see. I know it's going to sound like a grumpy old man kind of approach, but I see some people getting into it for the wrong reasons. We enjoyed the social crack. We enjoyed learning new things, and it was a wonderful, wonderful counter to the stresses of the day job, which just got more and more stressful, quite frankly, and it got more and more stressful right up until I'm running the department of people. I've got no desire to manage people ever again. Thank you. I'm quite happy being freelance. It brought its own challenges.
Did you?
Big department.
Sorry.
An American corporation bought the company. Yeah.
Oh, no, I was going to say, did you?
And I just wanted to jump ship then because it got very corporate very quickly.
Did you see that this could be a possibility as work?
So, when I registered the website, prior to registering it, so this is my thoughts, right back in 2008, I actually genuinely, between Paul and I, we thought, what if we work very hard and develop something? Somebody might want to take it off of us at one point. And I thought, you could create a web presence. To be fair, it didn't take very long to realise that actually the Floating Rum Shack, without Pete Holland, is nothing more than a web domain, and so it actually isn't really worth anything at all. So as long as I was kind of part of it, so I could have, if I'd been more motivated to do some things, more confident, whatever, there's all sorts of funny things we've been doing. I've had people all over the years saying, you should be doing video content, you should be doing, all the rest of it, doing podcasts, things.
Watch out.
Yeah, exactly. So there's all sorts of things we could have been doing, but it was, then I realised that it wasn't necessarily a saleable thing. However, Mike Streeter, rumconnection.com, there's these three guys. I love their websites. I love the style. They're all different, offering something different, and I kind of took them as an inspiration. We met Mike out in Miami. It was I think it was the second rum festival we went out for. We'd really only spoken via email a couple of times. He lived down in Key West. We ended up sort of catching up the following year when we went out to Miami. Again, we're doing this annually. It's become a thing. We went down to Key West to go and see him. He was a guy that was living full time in rum at that point, and so Mike has always been a few years ahead of me of where I kind of wanted to be, if you know what I mean. But I knew that it's possible to go full time in rum if you can build an appropriate model around you of something that's commercially viable. Are you giving the brand? It's absolutely. I've always thought the Floating Rum Shack really wants to be something. It's that quote on layer cake where Michael Gambon says it's like the art of good business has been a good middleman. Sorry, Daniel Craig said, and it's about the Floating Rum Shack's been that middleman kind of thing. I've always thought, what, if we put interesting content on there, that's something that people want to read, but then brands would want to sort of contribute to it. So it's that the website was the middleman kind of thing, and so it did feel like there was going to be a future to it. But the day job was holding me back. It made me quite low for quite a long time, depression and things. So it was difficult to get by it. But this whole thing, 2013. So this big corporation bought it. You're going to do it our way. And like even just the procurement system's like, I just don't fancy this. I've gone from having a reasonable amount of autonomy and flexibility to being I've got to ask permission to go and blow my nose. So I was a little lucky. I had a little bit of money invested in the company. I was able to draw that back out into the shares, cash that in, as it were, and go full time. But I left with little more of a plan than I want to do this. I had no idea exactly how it was going to manifest, and it took a few months to kind of calm down and get my head straight. So it wasn't really until 2014 that things sort of went full time. but I've been going from one job to another, various projects and things ever since. But it's everything I do was sparked by the fact that rum has got this amazing diversity. And that was Ian's Rum Festival. I've not missed a single day of RumFest ever since. That's a lot of 2-day events, including boutique RumFest. I missed a few Miami ones, but I've been to other ones, Germany and Rome and all kinds of places. There's history, there's diversity, but it's also how people interpret that. So remembering where I came from, remembering I don't come from the other side of the bar. I'm the consumer side of the bar, and that's an important thing for me to remember. When people ask me, about spiced rum or whatever it is, there's always, I think, from a consumer's point of view, it gets more and more difficult as years go by because I work in the industry. I am the industry, for want of a better word these days. But I want people to, I want to be that guy who helps somebody who's just getting started. I want to feel like we can, I can offer them something. My tastes and things have developed over the years, but you got to remember where you come from.
So if someone like me at 20 or comes to your, say you're at a RumFest, how do you bring them into rum? Like, how would you educate someone in rum? So
I think the simple answer is that if they've come to a rum festival, then they're probably already fairly motivated in the first place. So you've already got them; they're a self-selected person. The events where you can turn people on are where you're at a more general kind of food and drink festival where there's all kinds of spirits. And I love it when someone says, "I don't like rum." Right, in that case, get over it. And I like it. And to be fair, I really like it at rum festivals. And people say, "Oh, I don't like white rum," or something like that.
Or I only drink spiced rum.
Or I only drink spiced rum. That's cool. That's good. We've got a point. We've got a foothold. We can work with it. Especially because if people say they don't like white rum, it's like, well, you've just not been drinking the right one yet, because there's lots out there, There isn't another spirit category that is as diverse as rum. There is truly a rum for everyone, But why stick with, you might ask me, well, why not diversify into other categories, other spirit categories and things? Well, rum is a lifestyle choice still. It still makes me very happy to be associated with rum, There's lots to it. So, so how do you work with people? How do you draw them in? Sometimes it's just conversations. I've done all kinds of random events over the years. I've done from office parties for sort of pre-Christmas, go along, bring some rum down and do a light sort of fun talk about rum, gets people nicely plastered before they head off out for their evening kind of thing, in a responsible way, I should just say. There's all sorts. And sometimes people just say, yeah, I see what you're saying, but I still prefer whiskey. That's fine. Well, everyone likes what they like. But, but switching people on to something new, and especially if you understand why it tastes the way it does, it means you can make more informed decisions kind of going forward. So I kind of want to, I don't want to tell people what they like. That's just ridiculous. Sunday afternoon at Pauline's mum and dad's, this is still the case now. You'll have people around there from Trinidad, from Grenada, St. Vincent, Barbados, Jamaica, and every one of those people from those islands, and they are probably from the islands. They grew up in the islands and moved to the UK. They'll all think the rum from their island is the superior rum. Obviously,
right,
and so, who am I to say your rum's rubbish? It does seem disingenuous. I think it's a little unfair. So that kind of attitude kind of sticks with, and I'd rather maintain a sense of enthusiasm, and maybe we can turn some spice rum drinkers into authentic rum drinkers. Maybe we can bring them on. But also I know my own progression as well. I mean, there's lots of jokes and things about, where you start. But I mean, I did drink an awful lot of Captain Morgan spiced, with Coke. I can't even think of doing that now. It's like, if my teeth are tingling at the thought of it, and I like a rum and Coke, But everyone starts somewhere. Now my palate's moved on to probably way beyond where most rum people are in the market. I drink stuff that's a little out there these days. And equally when I'm sampling that rum to people, and I see the look on their face, and they're wincing a bit as they're trying to put it down, and they're trying to be nice, and they're trying to say, yeah, this is really great. But actually, they're really hating what I'm just really like, So, there's got to be somewhere for it. There's got to be somewhere where you've got to feel comfortable. I mean, I don't know. This is not meant to be a political thing or anything, but right now the world feels like we've taken a step backwards in some respects, and and I don't feel very happy about that. So we should feel good about some things, and if drinking a sweet rum or spice rum and Coke makes you happy, That's fine. That's a low thing to worry about on the scale of stuff. So if that makes you happy, good, run with it.
Now, it was kind of a trick question what I asked you about if I were to come up to you and how would you educate me? Because you obviously are an authority. You speak as if you are an authority. You know a lot. When you quit your job in 2013 and said, this rum thing is for me, did you feel that you had a lot of education left in you? I mean, obviously we're learning something new every day,
Definitely.
Did you feel, I am ready for this? Were you as confident then as you are now?
It's funny, for me, no, the education really doesn't stop. Last week I was lucky enough, again, this is part of the connections. If I hadn't got to where I got to right now, then invitations to be involved with things don't come along. And the WSET, the Wine Education Spirits Trust, or whatever, whichever way around it is, are running a pilot for their level 3 in spirits. So they've got a plan it. They've got to run it in a mock form before they release it August in 2019. So I was invited to come along for that, and that was quite a challenge. But out of it, it sort of made me realise that some things I didn't know well enough. And it gave me a chance to refine the way I talk about them, and so how I share. I always thought that I can take information and maybe break that down into sort of make it more manageable, make it more understandable. That's kind of, I think, my style. So like listening at rum clubs, you listen to all the bits and pieces and you share what's most important or what I think is most relevant to understanding why something tastes the way it does, why a brand is particularly, trying to skip past that marketing angle. Or the creative marketing, I let's put it that way. So looking for it, trying to keep it basics, build out. You've got to really work with your audience. If you've never tried rum before, well, there's no point in going into the ins and outs of column distillation. But maybe it is good to understand that pot stills make a characterful spirit and column stills can make a lighter, cleaner style of spirit. So maybe that is important. So that but we don't have to talk about reflux or number of plates and things like that. There's levels of. But I say it's the engineer in me. I just love to know how stuff works, and there is lots to learn. The world of rum actually has been developing in terms of the way it markets itself as I've been working in the world of rum as well, and that is not stopping right now. That some of the things, I was very lucky to go to a tasting the other week where a very interesting gentleman called Luca Gaccano was unveiling Hampden Estate rum. It's a new line. He's worked with a distillery in Jamaica. He's sort of unveiling it to the world, he's working with them. And he's all about authentic rum. This is pure pot still, high ester, flavoursome rum. And through its very launch, it's actually made the rum well better. We've stepped up, we've got more diversity. It's not for everyone necessarily. Their palates might not be attuned to it just yet, but it's, being in the market's good. He launched, so as part of the launch, he shared some rums from his personal collection. So I was blessed to try some of the Harewood House rum, which dates from sort of like 1780s from Barbados. He pulled out a bottle. I know. Can you imagine? And here, do you want to drink some of this? Yeah, get that down my throat.
Did it?
And it tasted amazing.
This is probably a dumb question, but did it taste like the rum that we know today, or was it a completely different spirit?
The notion that rum in the old days was a hot, hellish liquor, as sort of quoted in the things, but this rum, the Harewood House rum, was anything but. It was elegant and refined. It was the light one. It was beautiful. You know what? I genuinely think if you'd put it into someone's glass these days and not tell them the age, you wouldn't necessarily have realised. But it was pot still only rum, but beautifully made. Luca also pulled out some St James rum from the 1850s and some Bally from the 1929 as part of this thing, and Skeld in 1978.
Well, you work closely with Foursquare Distillery.
I do,
correct?
Yeah, absolutely, and they're relatively speaking a modern distillery, but it's kind of so there's lots of threads. It's not quite so easy to marshal the thoughts, but there's lots of threads that kind of come together. So Luca's someone who preaches about authenticity in rum. And it's not a concept that's easy for some people to kind of get their head around, because if I rewind myself to when I started in rum, the fact that it was rum, in the loosest sense of the word, was enough. Rum is fun. It's like, this is fantastic. I'm trying all these new things from all around the world. As my personal palate has developed, there are some rums that I don't feel the need to drink these days because they're presented in a lighter style, and I'm chasing a more intense sip. Luca's one of these people that promotes this. Now, I only found out just recently that, I don't know how long ago it was even, it might have been 20 years ago maybe, but Luca was the first person to start talking about classification in rum in terms of English, French, Spanish styles of rum. Now, I all my time in rum, that's all I've kind of known about, and it's good in some respects, but it also is a little weak because Trinidad make rum using multi-column systems, which you would consider to be like in a Spanish style, and in Venezuela they're making rums at Dusa using sort of pot still, column still, so it's kind of like that's an English style. So sort of previous colonial affiliation doesn't really dictate taste style, but it sort of loosely groups and it's kind of useful. He's talking about that. We've got Richard Seale's been talking about the inadequacies in terms of sort of how honesty in rum, should we just put it that way? How much additions are going on in rum? How much sugar are being added? What other flavourings have been added? And
Colour.
Well, colour's a thing for me as well. Yeah, I mean, like how do you how much caramel are you adding to this rum? You in the preamble we sort of talked about Kraken and things like that. Kraken isn't 1,000 years old to be like that dark. It's just coloured rum. That's all there is to it. So there's various lines of thought and things that have been coming together, and part of working for Richard. So when you asked me would I do a little bit of brand work for him, do bartender or retailer training, is part of it. He wants me to spread the message, that his message. Now it happens that his message and my message, or the way my education, are kind of aligned, so it's not a difficult thing for me.
And with the classification, have they made it kind of concrete or now?
No. So it's a proposal. No, it's a proposal. It's very much a proposal. When it was first launched, it was it used different descriptors.
Right.
The pure single rum, single blended rum, traditional rum, and at one point it was called industrial rum, which is the sort of the fourth tier on it, which is maybe a little unfair on the vast majority of rum brands. So the wording has changed. There's also how the argument's presented, because Richard has been sort of taking this classification. Richard Seale's the one who's really done an awful lot of work on this. There's not, I can honestly say there's not many people in the world that have worked quite as hard, given that he hasn't spent any money on like marketing campaigns or anything doing that. It's his own time. He's travelled around the world. There's a cost to all that, but he hasn't really spent money, on this. So this is about an argument, putting forward this argument. And having it challenged. We've been at Tales of the Cocktail where people have come back and been asking questions, and so it's been challenged. It's been maybe the wording has been refined on it, but it ultimately, the whole thing, whether anyone agrees with the wording, pure single rum, traditional single blended rum, things like that, if they disagree or don't disagree, what it has forced is people to look again at the industry and to ask ourselves some questions. Is it fair to do X, Y, and Z? I mean, there are brands out there that have been calling themselves rum. They've been adding a lot of sugar to their rum. They've been adding a lot of vanillin to their rum, i.e. flavouring. And under a lot of, all the regulations, you're not allowed to flavour rum. It's a little bit tricky with spice rum. So we're sort of, it's almost like people are going, well, as far as I'm concerned, if you write the word spiced in front of rum, you know what you're getting. You've got a flavoured product, so That's fine. You know what you're buying. But it's this idea that people don't necessarily know what they're buying, and so this where additions, adding sugar or adding other flavourings to a spirit and not telling people about it, I feel is a little unfair. I feel it's a lot unfair. I feel it's misleading. You don't know what you're buying. And to be fair, in this world, other things are coming along. People at the disclosure on additives and things are coming in all different kinds of industries. Why is the alcohol world? Why is that the last world that fails to declare what's going on? I mean,
Well, how about aging as well?
So aging, well, there's all kinds. Again, there's a few things. It'd be nice that there's a line that gets often wheeled out that rum has no rules. It's not true. Rum does have rules. Every local production facility around the world will be working to their local rules. Everywhere has rules. But there isn't like a global set of rules for rum. But then there's not a global set of rules for whiskey or for gin or anything like that either. So, why would be there? Why would be there? What a terrible thing to say. Why would there? So the differences are that some parts of the world have different like age statements, or the way that you classify age statements are there. So there are differences in the way that information is presented to consumers. But all those products all end up in the same marketplace. So you'll have rums from Barbados or Jamaica, and if it says 5-year-old rum, that's the youngest component in the blend. It's aligned with the Scotch model, and it's aligned with any common sense model, to be fair, because you can put a value proposition to it. But when you have average age, then that starts getting a bit tricky. So and Solera, I've got no issues with Solera, but then when Solera comes with an inferred number next to it, and I've seen it on bar menus, all around the world, Zacapa is the most famous one, and I've seen it on menus where the person who's written the menu has added 23-year-old, and they've added a year-old to it. Zacapa doesn't say 23-year-old on the bottle. It might have done or inferred it many moons ago, but it doesn't now. You look on the back of the bottle, it says it's a blend of rums between 6 and 23.
Right.
Of course, we have no idea what the component of 23-year-old rum is within that. It might be minuscule, it might be significant. Right. We don't know because the brand doesn't tell us. So it's kind of like, so you have to then make your own judgment call. So, when Solera's fine. If you like it, you're happy with the price, that's good enough. It's fine. But there are ones where, where it's almost like there's just a little bit of information around there, and they can tend to be sort of from Central America, kind of that sort of zone where you see a number and it doesn't necessarily add up to something you could trust as an age statement. So there's things like that kind of bug me a little bit, and that sort of drives me to go like, well, if you say I like this rum, and as long as you're armed with all the facts that there could be a bit of sugar added to it, a bit of vanillin or whatever else, and that the age statement might not necessarily mean that it's minimum age. If you know all of that, you're happy with the price and you like the way it tastes, well, that's it. Knock yourself out. Enjoy yourself. There's nothing more I could do. And I certainly don't want to change your mind. I might say, do you want to try this rum? And I might bring you something else to it because I think it might possibly develop your palate. But I mean, just even the idea of actually just saying that out loud is kind of like, well, who am I to say what you want? All I can give is people opportunities. I mean, last night I did a Twitter tasting. I like doing Twitter tastings. So it was like the 14th or 15th one I've done. And it was an Agri'Old brand, and we were bringing Agri'Old to people that have never really tried Agri'Old before. I'm also conscious of, I'm talking a lot here.
It is a podcast. We want you to talk.
Well, it's sort of one thing's flowing, it's disjointed. It will make sense in the end, I hope.
It does.
It's like my first tasting of cachaça, for example, and my first tasting of rum Agri'Old. These are cane juice spirits. They taste very different to the regular molasses rums that the majority of people are used to. And so I have to say that the first time I tried a cachaça, it was like the comfort of my own home. We bought an inexpensive brand from Sainsbury's, and it was horrible. It wasn't good, and it put me off. I thought, I don't like cachaça. Now, so when I do tastings of that, I want to hold people's hands. I want to manage their expectations.
Okay, wait. How long ago was that? Would you say?
Well, that would have been 2009.
All right. So I was going to say, if it was like last year, I would say, wouldn't you have known better not to buy the cheapest brand?
No, so now, well, see, the price isn't necessarily a guideline.
Okay, all right, not the cheapest brand. I mean, wouldn't you have done a little bit more research now?
Done. Yeah, and I suppose I'm a little old school. I mean, I see, people, and this is maybe where I'm not kept up. I've indicated that my website's a right mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. I get, I look at it and just cringe a bit. But then I don't really post these days either ways. My day job is full-time rum. I get my giggles talking to people face to face. That's just so much more enjoyable. So you've kind of
taught yourself, like I would come to you and say, I've never had rum before, and you would give me a selection. Now I hope you know to do that with cachaça and rum Agri'Old as well.
Yeah, exactly. No, I want to manage people because I know there's an amazing amount of spirits out there. There's some good stuff. And in a slightly smug way, when I hear people say, I don't like cachaça, I go, it's okay. Just give yourself a bit of time.
Just try a caipirinha.
You might get to the end of your life and you don't care for it at all.
Uh-huh.
But, I'm when I was a kid, I don't like parsnips. Mum said, well, you don't really eat them. Like, well, I just don't like them, And so you there's a degree of pig-headedness about things, but as long as you give yourself a choice. But if you understand what it is you get and why it's going to taste the way it does, maybe you can appreciate it. So when I first started drinking Agri'Old, I didn't particularly care for a Blanc Agri'Old. It's a very, very different tasting prospect. In fact, it's almost unfair to call cane juice rum and molasses rum under the same category because they're just so different. They are so different. It's actually aging that brings things together. If you try an old rum, an old Agri'Old, then there's the influence of wood brings the sort of flavour profiles together and you can understand it. But now I love it. I genuinely love drinking unaged cachaça or unaged Agri'Old. You know, it's a vibrancy. It's like you can taste the cane. You know, it's interesting, but it isn't. Having made the mistakes, I kind of don't want other people to suffer in the same way. I want them to understand why manage that expectation of the way it's going to taste the way it does. But I can get quite. I mean, you have to, after a while, you can't keep drinking the same stuff. You have to keep moving on. Some of the proudest things I've got in my collection at home, some of the things that I'm very happy to have, are single cane varieties of Agri'Old, like blue cane or red cane or whatever like that, or black cane from Marigold. So actual single varieties of sugar cane. And if you can taste the difference between that, now you're tasting actual cane. And like Clement, the Rum Clement were the one that kind of I suppose really hammered it home a few years back. Lovely lady called Emily was working around with us. She was with Rum Clement. She got me to try their vintage Can Blue. So every year they release a vintage of the thing. And when you try 2 or 3 of these from previous years, you realise that this vintage tastes different. And so whilst there are other production factors that can affect this, effectively what you're tasting is maybe a good growing season or a bad growing season, or was it very wet when it was harvested because they get an excessive amount of moisture in the crushing and things like that. So you're starting to get a sense of the land, and say there's a Longitude have got they're a little bit geeky. They don't sell it in the mainstream, but they've got Field 1 and Field 9. So this literally, like, I can't remember which way around it is. I think Field 1 might be up on the top of a hill, sunny, well drained. The other one down in the bottom of the valley or whatever, a little bit more shady, a lower set, but the cane type is the same, the processing is exactly the same, and yet they taste very different. Mm-hmm. So that I kind of like the idea of exploring the notion of terroir in spirits. I don't get a sense of terroir from molasses rums, because molasses is a byproduct of sugar production, and any sense of terroir has long been boiled out of the molasses to my mind. I'm not saying that molasses doesn't taste different, because I'm sure it can taste a little different, but that sense of connection to the land has been lost. But with cane juice spirits, you've got a sense of connection. So I've got Paranoobs at home, it's a rum made in Wanaka, cane juice up in the, and it's just like, I can't remember what strength it is, 54 or something like that percent, 56% ABV. It's delicious. It's amazing, but it's powerful, unaged spirit. I mean, it's like it almost doesn't taste like rum. It almost tastes more mezcal-like, to be fair. But it's discovering things like this. This is where I get my jollies now. But I have to say, rewind. Remember that when I'm working at a rum festival, a good 50% of the people that come to the stand are going like, "What spice rum do you got?" And that's their opening gambit, because a lot of people are into what is one of the fastest growing subcategories in rum is spice rum. And that's the hook that got them in. But just remember, I did drink a lot of spice rum way back when, so,
It's okay.
We can move people along, hopefully. Hopefully they move along. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll drink that until the day they die. But, but if I can introduce some other interesting booze along the way, then so much the better.
Exactly. Should we try some rum now?
For sure.
Get some off the shelf?
I think so.
All right. After our chat, Pete whisked me down to Trailer Happiness, a bar not to be missed for any rum lover, not only in London, but worldwide. Having just spent an afternoon with Pete talking rum, I felt I had a basic education, and I'm now on my way to becoming an aficionado. And now, it's time for our cocktail of the week. Our cocktail of the week is Agri'Old Fashioned, in celebration of Old Fashioned Week. Start by using rum agricole as your spirit instead of bourbon. Unlike normal rum agricole is made with freshly squeezed sugarcane juice rather than molasses. Peter advises using rum JM for this recipe. So start with a rocks glass and add 60 ml of rum JM VO and then 15 ml of rum JM shrub. Add 3 dashes of Angostura bitters and then stir to perfection. Top it all off with an orange zest, and you have the perfect Agri'Old Fashioned. You'll find this recipe and all the cocktails of the week on lushlifemanual.com, where you'll also find all the ingredients in our shop. Even though we didn't discuss it, Peter is the brand ambassador for Old Fashioned Week, which is now until November 10th worldwide. Check out where to discover your favorite variation at old-fashioned.com. lush-fashioned-week.com. A few weeks ago, I headed to the state of Kentucky. Next time on Lush Life, my guest is a man who created his own brewery in the heart of the U.S., using the techniques he brought back from Japan. Until next time, bottoms up. Thanks for listening to the Lush Life podcast, the sister of A Lush Life Manual. For more information and links to everything you heard, plus a bit more, please visit alushlifemanual.com. Always remember the wise words of Oscar Wilde. All things in moderation, including moderation. And always drink responsibly. Okay, I said that last part. Theme music is by Steven Shapiro and used with permission. Lush Life is produced by Terra, and I'm your hostess, Susan Schwartz. I'll see you at the bar.